Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Vigorelli, and this is Vigorelli Institute. I've got something for you, okay? And before I get into it, I want to preface this, okay? Um, I am a fan of Warhammer, okay? But I've never played the game because I'm not made out of money or time. So I'm more of a fan of the lore. So I've been watching a lot of lore videos for the past few months. We're talking Book of Choyer, Remembrancer, Imperial Erator, and several more. I also follow a lot of Warhammer aficionados on the Twitter, which, by the way, if you like what I do, you can follow me there. My handle is in the description. And been doing a lot of thinking. Okay, now I came across a few months ago the two Lost Legions. Okay, now for those of you who don't know, Warhammer takes place 40,000 years into the future. Okay, now 30,000 years into the future, the Emperor of Mankind creates allegedly 20 sons. Apparently, with the 20th Legion, they're twins. They count as one. But that's a whole other kettle. So, we're not going to worry about that. Okay? Now, two of those disappeared. Okay? And we know absolutely nothing about them other than some character traits. Okay? From there, we see that, okay, they exist as kind of a warning, kind of a mystery, because this is something that the Warhammer franchise loves to do. They like mysteries, they like it likes mysteries, convolution, and what ifs. That way, people like me, others, get to talking about it. That drives people getting into it and hearing about it. Okay, so yes, I'm giving them some free marketing. Meh. Anyway, I do understand that the two missing Primarchs are, as far as the game is concerned, actually there so that you, the player, can design your own legion and kind of do whatever you want with it, if you don't want to play as one of the other legions. Okay, which, fair enough. Okay, I don't care about that. That is completely meaningless to me. What I care about is in-universe lore, because I find stuff like that fascinating. Okay, so I was watching a video regarding the gods. Okay, there are four major gods that are accepted. There is a god of war and blood and destruction named Khorne. There is a god of disease, pestilence, misery, and also life. That is, his name is Nurgle. Then we have a god of randomness, changing, lack of cohesion. Okay, that is Zeech. Then we have a god of excess, be it pain, pleasure, greed, whatever. That would be Slaanesh. Okay, now each one of these gods came out at a certain time in history. Okay, Khorne is the oldest, and according to the lore, Khorne gained sentience as an entity somewhere in the time of Earth's medieval Europe. Okay, all the stuff that was going on there. Okay, now each one of these gods is a product of a realm called the Warp, or the Immaterium. Okay, this is a place of pure thought and emotion. These beings don't technically have form, but they become with form once enough aggregation comes in, and then poof. Okay? And we'll get to why I'm linking this with the two missing Primarchs. Okay? Now, according to the lore, when the Primarchs were born, finished growing basically, The gods, Siege especially, conspired to scatter all 20 of them to basically the solar winds of the galaxy. They landed on semi-random planets and grew up. Okay? They adopted personalities and so forth. Okay? And certain aspects of them coincided with the worlds that they were part of. Okay? This is why Mortarion is immune to poison and eventually fell to Nurgle, because he grew up on a very poisonous planet where he needed to where it needed to be cleansed. You pervert that, and now, instead of getting rid of disease and disgusting things and all that, he promotes it. Okay? So, every single one of them was found, eventually, and given their own corresponding legion. Okay? The reason why they were given these legions is because the men inducted into these legions are modified and augmented with extra genetics from the Primarch. So they're basically sons of the Primarch, and the Primarchs are sons of the Emperor. Not only that, each one of the Primarchs holds on to a few fundamental aspects of the Emperor. So you got guys that are strategic, you got guys that are benevolent, you got guys that are unbelievably violent, you got guys that are extraordinarily smart and like outstandingly psychic. Okay, so that brings me now to the two missing Primarchs. Let's hang out with the second legion first. That's the first one. Okay, the second one is the 11th legion. Okay, so the second one is described as being cold, stoic, aggressive when angry, and a masterful warrior. Okay, now number 11, okay, of the 11th legion, he is described as kind, caring, benevolent, funny, but also naive. Okay? So, soon after all the Primarchs were found and they were given their legions, there was a time called, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Great Crusade. This is where all of the disparate worlds of humanity were forcibly unified into the Imperium. Those that didn't comply were exterminated and then reseeded. Okay? Now, to do that, several of the Primarchs had to kill a lot of people. Okay? And others had to build them up. Okay? So what I think is Primarch number 2 was one of these long-standing strategic warfare guys. Okay? We've got a few of them. Now we've got 2 that are Master Siegers. We've got 1 guy that builds stuff. He's a perpetual. His name's Vulcan. He runs the Salamanders, and I can't remember what his legion number is. But we've got the World Eaters as well. And the World Eaters are very special because later on, during the Horus Heresy, their leader, Angor, I think his name is, he goes crazy and joins with Khorne and becomes a demon prince. Which, he's hell-bent on war, and now the World Eaters just destroy. It's what they do. Which, kind of, they were built to do anyway. Now, I'm thinking Legion 2 was exactly the same. Whereas the World Eaters are more for shock troops, okay, designed to basically destroy all military holdings on a given planet. I'm thinking Legion 2 was actually more built for sustained attritive warfare, okay? Rather than full-on destruction, because you don't want to rule over ashes, okay? That's dumb. He would send them out first to see, soften them up a little bit. Okay, he didn't want, like the Blood Angels to come in and just destroy stuff and eat people. And he didn't want to send the World Eaters in because he didn't want to destroy the planet. So he would send in the Second Legion. Okay? And they would soften him up. And this guy is so cold, he's like, look, if you don't resist, I won't hurt you. You resist, I'll hurt you. Okay? He's just very matter of fact that way. Okay? Whereas the 11th Legion, I'm thinking because each legion is based on the personality of its Primarch, this guy was more defensive. He was more growth-oriented. Okay? I think his job was to come in and start growing things. You know, set up colonies, build stuff, make sure everybody is fed, make sure everybody is happy, win hearts and minds, bring them into the fold by making sure everyone is safe, healthy, and happy. Okay? So why have these guys been wiped away? What could have possibly happened? Well, get into the heresy. So the Horus heresy comes up. Now, Horus was the greatest of them. He was also one of the largest. Okay? And he takes over the group called the Lunar Wolves and renames them Sons of Horus. Now, he gets tricked by one of his other brothers. Thousand Sons? Yes. Okay. I think his name's Vigorelli, but I could be wrong. Anyway, he gets tricked into wanting to overthrow the Emperor, believing that the Emperor is a liar and a con and a total fraud and all of this. So what happens is he begins converting his brothers to this. And 5 or 6 of them fall for certain. I don't remember about the others. But I'm thinking that Legion number 2 stayed with the Emperor. Okay? But sent him on a mission. And he crossed into the warp. Now, the warp is a precarious thing. Okay? And I think something bad happened to him. Okay? What I think happened is he went in alone because he had decided, I'm just going to go take out Horus. I can do this. Cut the head off the serpent, the whole thing will wither and die. Rebellion over. Huzzah. So he crosses into the warp on his own. This is where the gods come into play. Now, Siege is the god of changing of the ways. He's basically chaos personified. He also knows literally everything. Additionally, time is not actually a factor in the warp. You can go into the warp on a Tuesday. Let's say, like today is Tuesday, as I'm recording this. We are July 10, it's when I'm recording this, of 2025. I enter the warp today. I can pop out of the warp Thursday, 938, in the Roman Empire, in the Eastern Roman Empire. Like, I just literally step into there, okay? That's the way the warp behaves. So, here's what I'm thinking happened. Siege grabbed number 2, threw him backwards in time, landed him on some planet where he became a warlord again. Okay? And because of his personality, he just stewed in hatred. Okay? And it built and grew in him with all of that fighting. Now, according to the lore, Khorne is born during the Earth European Middle Ages, okay? So he would have had to have landed, maybe not on Earth, maybe on another planet. He probably did not like Xenos very much, so the guy went crazy. And then I think he was able to get back into his ship and go back into the warp, hopefully to get home. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. He was not able to pass through time, and instead, he ascended. Because here's the thing. If you look at Khorne's armor, looks oddly familiar. Okay. Well, that could just be, well, each one of the Primarchs has custom armor. Okay. Now, given this guy, he's probably a warrior. Okay. And he's probably leaning more agility, hand-to-hand combat, and range weapons. This guy was probably a one-man army himself, like his brothers are. Okay. So I think he ascended and is Khorne. Whether or not Khorne was his birth name is irrelevant. Okay? I think he is. Then he stays in the warp and grows his armies. Okay? As people get sucked in, okay, he turns them and they become the demons that he uses in warfare. It took a while for him to gain strength enough to be able to punch through into regular space, but eventually he did. Now, the second god to get created, because adding a future element into the past will change the ways. That is going to rewrite history all throughout the galaxy. That is enough of a shift to get Zeej, who is the second god to come into existence, come into existence. Then we come up to Legion 11. Now, remember what I said. Legion 11, I think, is designed to pick up stuff. The guy's a healer, okay? He's not a killer. He will if he has to, but he doesn't like to. He's devoted to life, okay? So I think he followed his brother into the warp in his own ship, and Zeej grabbed him, threw him back into time, and he wound up on somewhere, okay? Now, I don't remember exactly in the lore where Nurgle comes up, but he does, okay? He's the third one born, okay? And he is completely perverse, okay? Life is about decay, and decay is about life with him. So instead of building things and getting rid of disease, he promotes it, okay? So what I think happened was he landed on another planet, okay? And he was warped, okay? Now, granted, this does kind of get rid of the whole lore of, Patient 11, but I'm thinking Patient 11 is something else entirely. It could be this Primarch, and he's just out of his mind. But I don't think so. Okay? I think what happened was somehow he also ascended and became Nurgle. Because if you look at the way Nurgle is depicted, okay, a lot of his art, it looks like he's wearing armor. And it looks like he's wearing power armor that a Primarch would wear. Okay? And one of the things we know about the warp is if you're wearing power armor and you corrupt, that armor becomes part of you. And it takes on completely different forms. And they are wild. So, now his nature keeps in him. He's trying to promote life and make sure everybody is happy and wonderful, but he also recognizes that it's a useless fight, so why not lean into the skid? And he becomes Nurgle, and he bestows gifts. Okay? Now, before you get upset and say, you don't know anything, calm down. Okay? Hear me out. I checked with Grok on this. I spoke with quite a few people that do, Warhammer, and they kind of scratched their chin with me and said it's unlikely. It does break lore a little bit, but it's crazy enough that it might actually have happened. Okay? And it could answer why those two legions have been expunged from history, whereas Horus is in history. The Thousand Sons, the the World Eaters, the the Death Legion, etc. They're all still in there, even though they joined evil. Okay, they still exist in history. They were not expunged. The only thing I can see that would really, really anger the Emperor enough to where he says they do not exist, they never existed, that would be it. Okay? I know. Feel free to yell at me, okay? Am I off base? Okay? Did I harm your sacred cow? I am sorry. This is just kind of what I'm thinking here. Let's discuss this in the comments, okay? So if you would be kind enough, leave a like, leave a comment. Feel free to talk to me about this and subscribe. Love to talk to you, okay? And if you'd like to support me, please visit my website, vimandvigorelli.com. Link is in the description. I will be back later with something else. You take care. Bye-bye.